It's me trying a little experiment. I have a new camera, and I'm going to see what I can do with this camera. And one of the features of this camera, supposedly, is that it has pretty good sound compared to its predecessors. So if this works, I'm going to have a neat little podcast that I've made while I'm driving, and I'm looking at you, which means I'm looking at the road. I'm driving. I don't have to look directly at you in order to do this. So if the sound is okay, maybe I'll do this more often. If the sound is not okay, I'll bring some other microphone with me that something I can clip up here, or maybe I just won't do this in the car anymore. But this is a GoPro camera, and the first GoPro camera I had, the sound wasn't all that great. Now it's supposed to be better. So again, I don't know. I did a little test just walking around the house, and it seemed to be really good. Now, inside a car with road noise and whatever else you might have in a car, that's a different story. So we'll see. The neat thing about making little movies and blogging and using Facebook and whatever, the thing that people kind of forget about these days a bit is just because you have something, just because you recorded something or wrote something, it doesn't mean you have to share it. If you made something and it really didn't turn out well, or you're just kind of unsure of what you did, you don't have to share it. So if you're watching this, then I at least thought it was good enough to try. New GoPro camera. Okay, so let me tell you my experience the first time I got a GoPro camera. It was about 6 years ago for my birthday. Now, back up a little bit farther than that. I'd never had a waterproof camera before. And I always thought that would be an interesting thing to have. I didn't expect to do a lot of underwater photography or video, but just the occasional a camera that could stand up to a little bit of water would be fun, right? So I remember looking, way back, maybe 8 years ago, and Canon had a little camera, kind of a point-and-shoot digital camera that was about $300, I think, at the time, and it was waterproof, and it was, I think you could shoot a little bit of video on it, maybe not the best quality video, but it was mainly for still pictures, and I thought, well, that would be great. And I went up to Bear Lake, which is a good hour and a half drive from where I live, and my in-laws like to go up there. They've got some relatives with a timeshare cabin up there, and just go up to Bear Lake and enjoy the lake. Even though I live right next to a lake, there's something about going to a different lake, and it's a much bigger lake. It doesn't seem as crowded. Anyway, Bear Lake has a certain appeal. And I remember going there and thinking, and taking a bunch of pictures of just, people on the beach and just, whatever, dog chasing a tennis ball in the water. And I remember thinking, it'd be fun to have a waterproof camera that I could go out there. And I was thinking about this Canon camera and thinking, yeah, but $300, I don't know, I'd maybe use it once a year when we go to Bear Lake. I don't know. So I just kind of kept abandoning that idea. It just didn't seem like an expense that I wanted to do. So then, also, back years ago, I used to go to the NAB show in Las Vegas, the National Association of Broadcasters trade show, every year in April in Las Vegas, and you'd see everything that has to do with television production, and now streaming video, and TV and movies are all kind of intertwined in an interesting way. But you go to NAB, and the top manufacturers are there. Sony and Canon, and the software guys are there, like Adobe. And at the time, Apple was big, and they're still big, but they don't go to trade shows like that anymore. They used to. They used to steal the show when Apple would go announce some big deal at the trade show. Anyway, and I remember one year seeing this little GoPro camera. GoPro had a booth at the trade show, and they're showing off their camera, and it's their action camera, and it's a tiny thing, and you can mount it to the handlebars of a bike, or you could put it on your helmet and go skydiving, or you could go surfing, or you could go to, and these are the action videos they were showing, all the things people were doing with these GoPro cameras. And I think the first time I saw one, they did not yet have a high definition version of the GoPro camera, but it was still impressive. So small, you know, they'd mount it to the front of a Indianapolis race car and go around the track. Oh wow, these are really interesting perspectives. And somehow, watching their little demonstrations, I got put off by it because I thought, well, I don't surf, I don't go skydiving, I don't even ski, and I certainly don't drive an Indianapolis race car, so that's a neat camera, but I can't really see how I would use it. So then, 7 years ago, just like a week before my birthday, I saw an ad for Best Buy, and they just had this GoPro camera. I don't even think it was a sale price. It was just featuring the GoPro HD camera. And I remember just kind of browsing through, not necessarily looking for that, but I saw it and I went, you know, there's a good idea. it's a camera that you can do video, and it can do stills, and you put it in a waterproof case that comes with it. And why didn't I decide to get one of those? I'm thinking about a waterproof camera. I should get one of those. So I did. So and then I was only a couple of months later, they announced the new GoPro HD Hero version 2 camera, and that was okay. I already had a good time with the one I had, but you know, I just didn't know. You know, these days, you know that you don't want to buy a new iPhone in August, because they always announce the new ones in September. You know, if you're at all paying attention to when is the new iPhone coming out, or when's a good time to buy an iPhone. And so you get to know some of these companies, what their schedule is. And so, there I was, you know, back in the old HD Hero, and I went to the NAB show, and they had a good deal on it. You could, if you went to the NAB show, the next one I went to, they'd give you a discount if you bought the new HD Hero version 2. So I got one of those as well. Had a good time with my two GoPro cameras. And then I used them for things. I did a lot of like mounting them to the car and driving around and getting time-lapse stuff that way. And I didn't take up surfing or skydiving. But there were times when the GoPro camera really was a good thing to use for certain situations. But over time, I just kind of used it less and less and less. And it wasn't, you know, it just wasn't the right camera for the kind of stuff I was doing. And the other thing about it was, you know, the battery gets old, and so it doesn't hold a charge as well as it should. And, you know, I just kind of got a little bit neglectful of the fact that I had these GoPro cameras. But when I needed them, it was good to have them. And so then, just a few months ago, kind of right before my birthday this year, I thought, I was somewhere like a Best Buy or RC Willey that sells furniture and electronics, and saw these GoPro cameras, the new one, and I thought, well, that's interesting, but and then I thought, I wonder if I could just get some new batteries and revive my old GoPro camera. So that's what I did. I found them for like dirt cheap. I got about 4 more batteries for maybe like, I don't know, $20 or $30, and suddenly I got my GoPro cameras again, and so I'm having some fun with those.
Turn right on Lockton Canyon.
I'm sorry, my GPS is using voice-activated commands. Sometimes I say things and it starts to think that I ask it to do something. Anyway, where was I? So I'm having fun with my GoPro cameras, and that's fine. And all of a sudden, now it was the very end of September this year, and GoPro, I get this email because I'm on their mailing list, and it says, how about the brand new GoPro Hero 6? And I went, well, that looks very interesting. And one of the neat things about it does time lapse and slow motion in camera. Well, slow motion, you still have to. What you do is you shoot at a very high frame rate, then you pull that into the computer and slow it down to what you want. But it will shoot at 240 frames per second in 1080p resolution, and it'll even shoot 4K at 60 frames a second. Then you can slow that down later on if you want. But 240 frames per second, that's 10 times. You could slow it to 1/10 of normal speed and then still be playing it at 24 frames per second, which is the standard for theatrical movies. Or even if you showed that at 30 frames per second, which is kind of the standard for TV, it would still look like pretty slow motion. So that was very intriguing to me, the new GoPro, and then with like new improved sound and just in a whole lot of ways better than the GoPros that I had. And then hey, what's the harm of having 3 GoPro cameras at a time? And one of them being like the top of the line, and the other 2 they still work really well for certain situations. Full daylight, high definition. My older GoPro cameras can't do 4K, but I'm really not getting into the 4K stuff. That's a whole other. I'd have to get new software, new computer. There's a new monitor. I don't have a 4K monitor at home. This is, I have a drone and I have a GoPro camera that can do 4K, but I usually have them set to just regular HD. Occasionally I'll shoot stuff in 4K and then I'll just down convert it, and maybe later, if it's something that I think I might want to go back to and have it in 4K, then I have those files saved somewhere. But anyway, I'm really off my topic here. The point is, I've got a GoPro camera, and I figured I'd give it a shot. So what you can do, like I said, you can do these super high frame rates and then slow them down to normal in the computer, and then that's where you get this very smooth slow motion stuff. But one of the other things you can do is time lapse. Now, with the older GoPro cameras, I did time lapse. There are a couple ways to do time lapse. You can have it shoot a still frame at a certain interval, like every second I want 1 still frame, or every 5 seconds I want 1 still frame, or every half second I want 1 still frame. And then you can take that sequence of still frames and combine them into a video. And I would do that sometimes. Or the other thing you could do is you could just shoot regular video and then speed it up in the computer. So there's a couple ways to process that, and the different considerations based on the size of your memory card and how long the whole thing is going to take. Like if you're going to be like a 6 hours, and then you're taking pictures for 6 hours, and then you're going to speed that up into a minute or whatever. Maybe you don't want 6 hours of regular video. Maybe you'd be better off doing the still pictures and then put those together in a video and make a video out of a whole series of stills. Anyway, that's what I would do with the old GoPro camera. But this new one, you can do those ways to achieve time lapse, or you can actually have it create a video file so that the moment it comes out of the camera, it's already a time lapse. Okay, so I say, well, I want you to take 1 frame every second, which would amount to, depending on, I usually do 30 frames per second for my regular playback. So if you do 1 frame per second, then you're 30 times normal speed. I'm sorry, 1 frame every second, and then you play it back at normal speed, then it's 30 times normal speed. If you do 1 frame every half second, then you're 15 times normal speed when you play it back. And the fun thing is I don't have to process it in the computer. Take the file right out of the camera and it's already sped up. So that was one of the attractive features of the new GoPro. And so several things. One, you've got a new camera, which is going to have a bunch of better features on it anyway. It's going to have a better sensor, and just a lot of the things with the image quality are going to be better. It works better in low light. no GoPro cameras are wonderful in low light, but it's a lot better than the first one I have. Yeah, so low light conditions and all those improvements, the improved sound, and then this built-in time lapse thing. So, well, we'll have some fun with it and see what happens. But anyway, so that's why you're seeing more GoPro stuff from me all of a sudden in the last couple of months, because I've sort of rediscovered GoPro and I like it. There's something very convenient. I've got my full-size video camera that can do time-lapse in camera. And of course, I always have the option of running a really long, just regular speed video and then later on speeding it up in the computer. But there's something so very convenient about this GoPro. Tiny thing, I can put it on a little stand. I can just say, well, the clouds are interesting outside right now. I'm just going to go take this little camera, stick it on the railing on the front of the house, and just press a button and go, and it's done. It made a time lapse for me. So that's attractive. I'm going to have fun with it and just, see what happens. But anyway, time to go in and go to the store. I've got a few other errands to run, so maybe I'll make another little podcast for you in just a moment.